to you live from the snowy dunes of Hoth. This is Echo Base Radio. I am Green Leader 88.
I'm Blue Leader 99.
And on this episode number 2, we're going to go in. I think it's kind of fitting that we start with the one that started it all, the one that brought us all together.
Oh, yeah.
The original 1977 Star Wars.
Not episode 4.
Not A New Hope.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Written and directed by George Lucas.
Big Daddy Lucas.
We love you, George. We love you, George. Thank you for this wonderful piece of filmmaking that honestly changed filmmaking forever.
And changed the lives of nerds everywhere across the world.
Yeah, and the way that this thing came together just from this collage of different elements that really makes it special. I mean, a humble background, bringing forth the motif of the hero's journey with elements of samurai films, Western films, molded into a sci-fi universe, populated by a cast of unknowns with a couple veterans, and how it changed the pop culture landscape for all time.
And I don't think there's another movie out there that pretty much just defines what cinema should be than Star Wars. Like, when you think great cinema movies throughout history, Star Wars is a classic that always comes to mind.
Oh yeah, and even scenes from Star Wars will always make a collage or a list of great moments in cinema. And not just from the entire saga, but in particular, this film has a couple sequences that come to mind whenever I think of the original Star Wars, or whenever I hear some of those fantastic pieces from the score, which we will get into. But this was this has been, a film that I've cherished, I've come to over and over again over the years. For this particular review, I basically stuck with the original 1977 cut, or as close of a copy of the original as you could get. I know there's multiple cuts of them out there, and we're not endorsing internet piracy or anything, but there's multiple cuts out there. I'm sure many of our listeners have heard of things like Project 4K 77, Harmy's Despecialized Edition, or even if you're lucky enough to have one of the VHS box sets from the 90s, or even the Laserdisc box set, which I've heard is pristine, high quality.
And what's a laser disc, you may ask, kiddos? Go ask your parents. Or Google.
Well, kids these days don't even know what DVDs are, do they?
Oh, no.
No. And here we are with our big walls full of internets, full of DVDs and Blu-rays. Yes, just piling up our walls because we love to have our things displayed on our nice bookcases.
Well, and then in my opinion, I'll take a physical copy over digital anyway.
Oh yeah,
because it's right. It's right there. I can touch it. Nobody's taking that from me unless I lose it.
It's preserved.
And if the internet goes out, I can still watch it.
But what if the power goes out?
Well, you ain't gonna be doing jack of anything if the power goes out.
So basic thing, if you haven't seen Star Wars, basic plot is fledgling rebellion against a...
If you haven't seen Star Wars, why are you watching the show?
Well, maybe they want to find out. And
I'm just kidding. We're like,
yeah, and we're two nerds to explain it all to you.
Seriously, go watch Star Wars.
Yeah, go watch Star Wars. But basic plot is fledgling rebellion is fighting a evil galactic empire. They have this battle station that has the power to destroy planets. So there is a princess who has these 2 droids. She has the stolen plans with the schematic readouts of the battle station, puts them into the droids. The droids escape to a desert planet where they find a farm boy and a Jedi Knight, who then enlists the help of a smuggler to help bring the plans back to the Rebel Alliance so that they can launch a full-on assault against this battle station known as the Death Star. That is the basic plot. And let's just start with, you know, let's just start. Like, you know, what
Well,
is it about
first-
this movie that
First
drives
thing,
us?
first thing I'll say about the movie that I think really just helps it stand the test of time is the casting.
Oh, yeah.
Like everybody in that cast was perfect for the roles that they were given. Like
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't see anybody else playing the role for Han Solo
No,
and
and
Harrison Ford.
And it was funny because if you've actually seen the documentary called Empire of Dreams, Harrison Ford was cast, but he wasn't allowed to audition since he had already been in another one of Lucas's earlier films, which
Oh.
was American Graffiti.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah, yeah. So like,
Wow.
he was at the studio, probably just doing some carpentry work or something. But anyway, Lucas basically assigned him the part of having sides with the people who were coming into audition, and he had to explain what was going on in the script at that moment in the script to whoever was coming into audition.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and you know, like you can definitely hear a lot of his, like, you know, his voice in a lot of the audition tapes. So, you know, you had a non-actor who had already acted who was making more money as a carpenter than an actor at the time. You had Carrie Fisher, who was basically coming from Hollywood royalty, you know, daughter of Debbie Fisher and I'm sorry, Debbie Reynolds, and I can't remember what her father's
don't
first name
remember
was.
his name.
Mark Hamill was sleeping on Freddy Krueger's couch at the time, and Freddy Krueger came in to the apartment that they were sharing or whatever, and he went up to Mark and said, "Hey, I saw this audition for this weird space movie that I think you would be good for," and Mark jumped in head first.
Who would have thought Mark Hamill and Robert Englund would have been roommates?
I mean, it's just so weird to imagine. Like, I mean, could you imagine him, like, I mean, you know that he would have had to have come home from, like, you know, a day of shooting Nightmare on Elm Street and just, like, been hiding in a closet with the makeup already on, just waiting to scare the living daylights out
When
of
did
him.
Nightmare come out?
I don't know.
Hold on, actually, I have to. Hold on one second.
He's got the physical copy, ladies and gentlemen.
That I do. Gotta find it. A bunch of movies.
Yes.
A bunch of movies.
This is what happens when we have physical. You got to dig through it like a treasure trove. So the original, what year are we looking at?
No, there's a bunch of writing. Oh, 84.
84. Nah. Well, they probably weren't roommates for that long anyway.
Fun fact about the original Nightmare on Elm Street, that was Johnny Depp's first big role. Or his first role, actually.
Was this before Jump Street? 21 Jump Street? Oh,
'Cause,
even before that, okay.
Because first, when you watch it, it says introducing Johnny Depp.
Okay.
That's like he's fresh off the boat, like his
Oh,
first
wow.
role.
Wow, so... wow, I did not know that. Learn something new every day. But, and then you had some like, you know, people who had been in Hammer films before. I mean, you had, you know, rounding out the cast, you had David Prowse in the Darth Vader suit. You had Peter Cushing coming in off of like Van Helsing and Sherlock Holmes doing
Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, Grand Moff Tarkin. Then you had, you know, just a whole slew of different. Peter Mayhew, who was working as an orderly at the time, and did you hear how he got cast?
Huh.
It's an Empire of Dreams. He said that you know with him being British, it was always proper for him to stand up whenever someone walked into the room, and Lucas and Gary Kurtz, the producer, had agreed to see him. And when they walked into the room, he stood up, and they just looked at him, and George just turned to Gary and said, "I think we got it."
Yep, that's our man.
Yeah, yeah. So Peter Mayhew, I think, was like 7'3" or something like that. So yeah, big dude. And then
Sir
Kenny
Alec
Baker.
Guinness.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
Right.
Yeah.
Who didn't even want to do the movie?
Oh, he didn't?
No, like he thought it was a. I remember I forget where it was, but I was watching an interview with him, and how he was talking about how he couldn't really understand it because it was just this space movie about like it. He's like this fantasy stuff. It doesn't make sense to me because he's more of like a real world actor. Like he's like a
Oh, yeah.
like I think he was like a stage actor and.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he's more of like serious roles, and
Yeah.
they come in and have him be this this old space wizard, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's not for me.
Yeah. And, I mean, I understand it, but, it introduced him to a wider audience because before that, other big roles that he had done were in Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, but I don't know if a lot of people were flocking to those films like they eventually did do once Star Wars word of mouth got out. But I've also heard another story of how he was approached by a child at an airport. And the child basically said, you were great in Star Wars or something. And he basically just smiled and said, don't ever watch it again.
I've done other movies.
Well, apparently not ones that got you wider recognition than this one.
And what amazes me about the original Star Wars is that nobody knew like how it would blow up, like it would blow up the way it did.
I mean, even George wasn't expecting
Yeah.
it. People kept asking him, why do you want to do this? And he was just like, it sounds fun. I want to do it.
Yeah.
It was
Like,
his idea that he
had
conceived.
no budget whatsoever. Like,
No. And everyone was saying that, this thing's just going to die a horrible death.
This is going nowhere. Why are you wasting your time with this?
Yeah, and it even caused him heart problems on the set. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, he was on a very tight schedule. He was going over budget. Stuff was not working. I mean, this was.
Well, if you think about all the innovation that came out of that movie, as far as
Yeah.
like special effects and just what you can do, like they really pushed the limit of okay, this is what I want. This is how let's find a way to do it.
Oh yeah, and obviously there were things that he wanted to do that he couldn't do because of time and money restraints, as well as the technology not being caught up to what he wanted to do to fit his vision. But the way he made that movie, in his own words, on the seat of his pants, is not only a testament to how great of a filmmaker George Lucas is, but it was also, Jaws 2.0, because Spielberg encountered a lot of problems on the set with Jaws. That's why one of the reasons that we have a lot of those shark POV shots in the movie was because, half the time the shark wasn't working, so Spielberg had to work around that.
Yeah, and see, like that's why I love honestly watching old movies like that, because nowadays you go to see a movie, Avatar,
Yeah.
for example. Yeah, the movie's beautiful, but 98% of that movie is fake.
Yeah.
Like, it takes so much more time, effort, and love to be able to figure out how you do this practically.
Yeah.
And like I understand that there are some things that that just look better, and just because of technical reasons or whatever that have to be done through CGI. Yeah.
Right.
But my thing is, it's just more impressive to me to realize, they did that on their own. Like,
Yeah.
they made those models fly and blow up like that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that, not talking about the remasters. Like, that's all digitally added and stuff. But
We'll get to those.
yeah,
But yeah, just
it's impressive. It's just a testament of what willpower can do.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the money for it.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but every single time we've seen Tatooine, not just in the movies, but also in shows like The Mandalorian and Boba Fett, everything has been in Tunisia for all those scenes, right? Like, right?
I
They
don't-
keep going back to the desert, right?
I think the majority, if not all of it, was shot in Tunisia, but
Yeah.
it was all shot like on location. Like it's not
Oh yeah.
digitally recreated or anything like that.
Okay. I know that some of the. I know that when I was watching some
Isn't
of the.
the
Like,
hut still there?
yes. Yes. The Lars Homestead is there, and yes, you can pay to take a tour out there, and you can also go at different times of the day. And if I ever get there, you have like I would say I cannot go unless it's at sunset.
Yes.
Unless it's at sunset, because I want to have that classic moment not only reenacted, but get my picture too.
Right.
Because I mean, that is one of the most iconic scenes with one of the most iconic pieces of music with one of the most picturesque moments in Star Wars. I mean, like like no other movie had done a twin sunset with our burgeoning hero looking out at that and just wishing for something more than what he was.
I think that's also a good segue to go into the music,
Yeah.
because what John Williams, legendary composer,
Right. Who was requested by Spielberg, actually.
get your butt out of the way.
Sorry, we're just dealing with a local Gundark here.
Yeah. But yeah, John Williams, epic composer, Jurassic Park, Superman,
Jaws,
Raiders
of the Lost Ark.
like you name it, it's probably John Williams.
Yeah.
But John what I like about John Williams is he always has a way of communicating through his music.
Yes.
Like every single score. Get out of the way. Sorry, my dog. But every single score for each scene like complements it perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Like not just setting up the mood and like he just picked the perfect tone for each scene and it speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I think he also turned to classical compositions as inspiration, and have me personally having recently rewatched something like Fantasia, you can definitely tell that there's like flashes or inspiration that like the scene where C-3PO is wandering alone out in the desert. That sounds to me like something that would have been from The Rite of Spring with the dinosaurs in Fantasia.
Yeah.
Or like, when the Jawas show up, you could think of that as like, the broom segment from The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like, it sounds very similar to that.
I love how each character had their own theme and variations to that theme.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you could, based on, like, whose theme was playing and, like, the pitch or the tone of the theme really convey, like, what mood that character was in.
Oh, yeah. And like, you also know that, even if they're not being shown right now, that they're going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it could be alluding to something else that's going to happen
Oh, yeah.
later on. Williams does a lot of that. Foreshadowing with music.
Oh yeah, and like you said, every scene is just elevated by what he's able to bring with it. I mean, he's not only able to convey that sense of longing, but also things like tension, anxiety, happiness, joy, just like it's basically the scale of emotions but with music.
Yeah.
And music can convey emotion even today. Like you don't have to just go to classical compositions or film scores to get that. Like I mean, even in our modern day pop songs or songs that were popular back in the day that still resonate with people today. I mean, it's just a testament to it.
I agree. And there's just it speaks volumes about a composer when you can hear something and it can instantly just bring up emotions or like for Star Wars. Like it brings up scenes from the movie or how you felt when you saw that scene.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you know, like we said in our intro episode, we were both kids of the '90s. But I was thinking the other day, how cool it would have been to have been a kid in 1977, seeing this film for the first time and just being wowed by the overhead flying over of the starships at the beginning, and just hearing the the bombastic horns and the drums and everything just coming together, seeing this dogfight between them, and then going inside the ships and seeing all these soldiers, and you may feel a little bit of whiplash because everything's happening so quick and you're like, what's going on? I mean like, I just read this title crawl that's telling me what's going on, but at the same time you're just fascinated and in awe of it because of just how like they said, we had literally never seen anything like this before. Yeah, I mean, George has even gone on record by saying that, before Star Wars, the highest grossing science fiction movie of that time was 2001: A Space Odyssey. And
Great
yeah,
movie, by the way.
yeah, and I mean, people had never seen anything like that before, but still, it achieved like a $20 million or something like that, when typically a sci-fi movie would have made 11 million or something like that. But then Star Wars comes along and just changes everything. I mean it is the game changer. I mean, everything was like they had to build everything and go to sound stages, go to suffer the extremes of the desert, and also deal with difficult weather conditions in the desert, getting stuff up and then going out to shoot next morning and the set's blown down.
Oh, that dates us.
Well, I mean, has there ever been a classic Star Wars moment where someone's running down the stairs really quickly?
There's a moment of Han running in the hall very quickly when he's chasing the stormtroopers. And then he runs into the hall, sees a whole group of them.
Which got elevated, more in the special edition. There's much more of them.
Yeah.
And ships too, or something.
Yeah, they could actually go in and CGI the ships and extra troopers in.
Well, I mean, kind of like how when they introduced the clones, I think they just built one suit and then digitized everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to have 3 or 4 in actual suits, just have them in different positions.
Yeah.
And then just take those 3 or 4 and just copy them and spread them out. I mean, if you're on a budget, why not?
Yeah. But going back to the ships, I love how there's that scene where C-3PO and R2-D2 are just looking one way and looking both way and then looking the other way, and they just cross the hall with this gunfight going on, they're just crossing a busy street really quickly.
Look both ways. Look both ways for gunfire.
Yeah. And yet none of them even get hit. But then we get introduced to, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Darth Vader, in that scene. And he carries a great deal of presence with him. I mean, just him showing up, with silence and subordination from the troops under his command, you not only get the sense that, that this big bad is not only the man in charge, but he is also, the real deal. That, he's going to get crap done. Even if he is, and, we'll talk about this when we talk about Empire, but in this film, he is a bit restrained. And even Leia says that to Tarkin at one point. I expected someone to be holding Vader's leash because, as we see in Empire, you take that leash off of him and he's not the happiest of campers.
Yeah.
But even in this one, he does get that to you know, he does have those moments to show that, you know,
Well, I think that's good
he
because
is in charge.
yeah, and also that shows that expands upon like the hierarchy of the empire,
Right.
because no, like you were saying, it confirms that Vader's not the top dog.
Right.
Like, he's not the man in charge, but he commands power.
Yes.
And then later on in Empire, we meet Palpatine for the first time.
Right.
And
Who we didn't know was Palpatine.
yeah,
It was just the Emperor.
and which fun wasn't that? It was some like I forget whose wife that actually was that did the original Emperor, but it was one of the producers or somebody's wife.
That they just put in a robe and then they dubbed over it with that original guy's voice.
Yeah, they were like, we need somebody for the Emperor, so they took somebody's wife, put a cloak on her, did her face up a little bit, and that was her.
It was effective.
Yeah,
It works.
and then they got McDermott for Jedi.
Yeah, and then when Revenge of the Sith, like before or after that, they went in and redid it with Ian McDermott, which I've only seen portions of that scene. I haven't seen it at all, but I mean, I love the original version of that scene with the original.
Wait, you're talking about that first
Woman,
like
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they changed it, but it was iconic. And if I was that woman, I'd be pissed. Just like what they did with was that Prowess that they showed at the end of Jedi, the original Anakin? Did
No,
they use Prowess or
no, that's not Prowse. That was yeah. For those of you who don't know, there's actually 4 different Vaders when you're
Yeah.
watching the original trilogy. There's James Earl Jones doing the voice. There's David Prowse in the suit. There's a third guy in the suit doing the lightsaber. And then when he's mask off and ghost Anakin Skywalker, that is a actor by the name of Sebastian Shaw.
yes,
Yes.
Sebastian Shaw. That's it.
Yeah. So
4 people to bring that man to life.
and now what? 6 was Hayden in the suit in at the end of Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah,
Was Hayden in the suit? Okay.
and he was in the suit a little bit in Obi-Wan too.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about Obi-Wan right now. But I mean,
I had my quips, but I liked Obi-Wan.
But I mean, like, if we want to talk about Alec Guinness right now, we can do that. Is there anything you like about Alec Guinness in this movie, or like the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, I mean, he pretty much, that version set the standard for what Obi-Wan is supposed to be like. In casting someone like Sir Alec Guinness really gave Obi-Wan that, yeah, he was supposed to be this old dirty hermit.
Yeah.
But just with the way he was played and the way he spoke, you could tell that there was, even though you saw this dirty old man, like there was a regalness somewhere that's supposed to be in there.
Oh,
just
yeah.
with the way he spoke and the way he carried himself. And it added more layers to Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, we were introduced to him, but okay, and then going forward with his conversation with Luke at the farm, we know that, okay, this guy used to be a Jedi. He's fought in wars.
Yeah.
He's pretty decorated like this.
Oh,
this
yeah.
old hermits. There's more to him, and I think he just played that perfectly.
Oh yeah, and you want to talk about Star Wars being a trendsetter or a standard setter. The way that Alec Guinness plays Obi-Wan has set the standards for old mentors in films. He basically set the stage for oh gosh, I'm blanking hard. The guy who plays Gandalf and Magneto.
Oh, Sir Ian McClellan.
Yes, without Alec Guinness's portrayal of Obi-Wan, we never would have gotten Gandalf, we never would have gotten Magneto, we never would have gotten Patrick Stewart's Professor X.
And it also
or
helps
Mr.
that,
Miyagi even.
yeah,
Yeah.
and all those guys were theater trained actors, and it
Oh, yeah.
definitely shows. It definitely elevates their performance to that next level.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like, if Patrick Stewart can do a one-man version of A Christmas Carol on
Yeah.
stage, you know that he can,
He's got some chops.
you know that he can command a room just sitting in a wheelchair, which he does.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's great moments that Alec Guinness is able to convey in the scenes that he's in. One of the particular things that I like is after they finally see the full version of Leia's hologram message. There's just that silence after it's done, and he just looks at Luke and he basically just says, okay, like, it's your time now.
Yeah.
You have to come with me because you may not know this, but you're the reason I've been on this planet for the past 19 years at this point. Yeah, so like,
Your destiny's coming to fruition.
yeah, and also when he has that moment of weakness, when he feels like, Alderaan being blown away, and he just can't really know what's happening, or like, even the scene at the cantina where he cuts off that dude's arm, and like, even before they go in, he says, like, this place can be a little rough, so you just can't help but wonder, like, how many times has he had to, like, whip out that lightsaber in that bar.
And while we're on the subject of Alec Guinness,
Yeah.
we were talking. Excuse me. We were talking about. We were going to go into like our favorite quote.
Yes.
Well, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is after Obi-Wan's already rescued Luke from the Sand People.
Right.
They take him back to the farm,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking about the Clone Wars and Anakin.
Right.
And like that whole conversation, that whole speech from him is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. Just not only for the way it's acted, because Alec put such a spin on it to where like you could tell that there were other factors involved from what he was saying. Like there was something deeper there.
Yeah.
And we go on later to find out that that pupil was Darth Vader.
Right.
Who goes on to be Luke Skywalker's father, that we come to realize.
Right.
And then, later on in the prequels, that relationship is expanded upon. And just everything in the Star Wars lore, just knowing the relationship of those two characters and what they've been through, just makes that scene hit so much more powerful. And
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And also a very significant moment is like, the passing down of the lightsaber in that scene. But one of my favorite scenes, which also has my favorite line of the movie, is that scene where all of those Imperial officers are like in this board meeting, and we also get more world building through the dialogue because like, they're talking about the Death Star is still vulnerable because the plans are still out there. The rebels are much stronger than we think we are. And then Tarkin comes in and says I have just received word from the Emperor that that the last remnants of the old Republic have been swept away. The local governors now have direct control of their provinces. This battle station will be a symbol of fear that will keep the systems in line. And then the guy who has put his his entire faith in the battle station just gets immediately shut down by Vader, which is my favorite line, where he goes, "Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force." And, he shows him the power of the Force, and that first part of that line really hits a little bit differently when you get into Return of the Jedi and also Revenge of the Sith. You're not only you're not only inside a technological terror, you're also looking into the eyes of a technological terror, right?
Yeah.
At that moment.
Mhm.
So like, like, you may have constructed me, but I still have the force.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which can also lead into a rabbit hole because, like, I heard that in the old Legends canon, they put some of Sifo Dyas's blood into Grievous, so why couldn't he use the Force?
Yeah.
But that's Legends. That's disregarded. And speaking of Legends, this goes into the Star Wars iceberg a little bit, which is fun. There was apparently an old comic that explained why the original R2 unit that Luke and Owen bought malfunctioned. Apparently, that droid in this old Legends comic was force sensitive and blew up because he knew R2D2 had the plans inside of him. Yeah, like apparently they spoke to each other on the Sandcrawler or something.
Sure.
Do you buy it?
No, not even a little bit.
Well, they have to explain it somehow.
Well, R4 is still alive. He makes an appearance in the new season of Mando. And it
No,
is
that's R5, right?
R5, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, R4 got his head ripped off in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, R5.
Oh, come on, Red, let's go. But there was something else from the iceberg that I can't remember now. But
Force sensitive droids.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah, force sensitive droids. I mean, come on, you gotta love it. They gotta explain this stuff somehow. And also episode 4, that moment where where they're chasing down the TIE fighter that's heading toward the Death Star. Have you ever heard of Tag and Bink?
No. Tag and Bink?
Yeah, Tag and Bink. It was this other Legends comic series or something, but basically it was about these two bumbling, inept Imperial officers who were either witnesses to or were the reason behind some of the events in the trilogy. And apparently in this book, they were both in the TIE fighter and inadvertently led them to the Death Star.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were in the TIE fighter that was apparently sent out to just, I guess, make sure that Alderaan was blown up.
See, here's my thing. Why are we making new movies with new material when we have all of this gold to draw upon? Like, I want a Tags and Binks movie now.
Well, to Kathleen Kennedy, that stuff doesn't exist.
Well, Kathleen Kennedy can go
Well,
things we can't say on this channel.
well, I mean, yeah. Expanded universe stuff, we already had a treasure trove of material that we could have done, but,
Why? And see, we're going.
Do you want to save your anger for when we get to The Force Awakens? I know that you want to so badly, but we have to wait.
Yes,
we have to wait.
We'll be.
Let's stick with the happy stuff.
We'll be here all day. But I'm just gonna say this one thing. Why, God's green earth, did Kathleen Kennedy feel the need to create her own thing, her own characters, when she could pull it from anything with Legends and put their spin on it? Like, because that's what the fans want to see. We don't want Rey. We don't. we want Shadows of the Empire.
We want the Force
Heir to
Unleashed.
the Empire, which we're getting. But
we want Force Unleashed.
Like, come on, man. All right, tangent over. Back to Star Wars.
All right, yeah, back to Star Wars. But, all right. So you said that your favorite line was in the farm scene.
Yeah, like I can't just pick one particular line. It's that whole monologue that Obi-Wan does.
Yeah, and I've already told you my favorite line.
Yeah, where he's talking about Anakin and how he was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and
just that gives me chills.
And also it's elevated by the score that Williams brings in when he's saying, like, like, basically my entire family is dead. My best friend is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really hits hard. And let's see. I love the infiltration of the Death Star when they're in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And I also noticed recently how, like, they say there's that one Imperial officer says, get me a scanning crew. I want every part of this ship checked. Apparently, a scanning crew is only 2 stormtroopers just walking through the ship.
Yeah, sounds about
Not
right.
even with, like, a metal detector or anything.
Oh, we got our flashlights. We're good.
But let's go into some special edition changes really quickly.
Yeah.
One that I do like is when we get that view of Mos Eisley and we get to see just like some ships departing out. Like,
Yeah.
like I get that Lucas wanted this to be a bustling spaceport with a lot of activity and beasts of burden and things like that, but when you think of a spaceport, it's got to be something small. Like, it's not, it doesn't have to be like, a big city or anything. I mean, like, think of like, Tomorrowland at Disney World.
Yeah.
That is, within the story of that land, that basically is a spaceport. And so, Mos Eisley, I mean, like, I know what Lucas wanted to do, but I just don't like the vastness that he brought to it with the special edition.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, wanting to populate it with stuff you couldn't physically add first go around. And I think he straddled the line pretty well of not overdoing it too much, just adding like bits and pieces here and there, like ships flying over, like like the I can't remember the technical name, but that big thing the Jawas are riding in Mos Eisley.
And how it gets spooked by that bike. I mean that is a bit much. And also when he has one walking across the screen, that was blocking the entire shot of the land speeder. That was
unnecessary.
Like,
that was not a good show. I don't see what that added to the story at all.
Apparently, that was one of the dinosaur models from Jurassic Park when it's walking across the screen.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you it's a small thing, but are you okay that they replaced the mannequin dewbacks with the CGI dewbacks? Like, even the one that's like, just by the bar that just like has the stick in his head and is moving around, or do you like the fully CGI one that's moving and making sounds, and that scene of the stormtroopers riding on them in the desert?
I like, and there again, that goes back to, I like more of the physical effects.
Yeah.
Just because it does so much more for the scene and for the story, knowing that is actually there, that the actors can physically touch that, look at that,
right,
interact with that. But I do like how, like, in the scene where they're combing the desert, I do like how they added more, like, in the backgrounds, just to give it that sense of, there is a search party for the droids. And I think when it adds something to it like that, it's a welcomed addition.
Yeah. Whereas before there was just that weird static shot of like one sitting on the puppet in the background, and then you have one in the foreground, and then the camera moves to the right and we see that there's more. But Lucas said that was a scene that came out of whimsy. Yeah. That like, just like, something weird about
Georgie loves his whimsicalness.
Yeah. like just something weird like this military industrial complex riding on these beasts of burden in a desert setting.
Okay, here's another little change. What'd you think of the changing Obi-Wan's Tusken call?
Not good. Just keep it as it is. I mean, that was fine. And what is it now? Like a full-on roar or something?
Yeah, they changed it again when they put it on Disney Plus, and it's stupid now.
And R2D2 having rocks covering his little hideout.
Why? What does that do for the scene? What?
Well, apparently what happened was when he saw the Tuskens coming, he used his little arms to move them, and then he got into it, and then he used his arms to pull them back in.
Yeah, that's my thing. Did he have that crack is like this big? Like, did he Terminator and turn into jelly, seep into the cracks, and then form up and hide? Because the opening to that little cave was like this.
And
With
he was
that little rock
already...
hang.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Tusken Raiders were looking for droids. I mean, like, you know, as far as I know, they didn't even know that R2-D2 existed.
Yeah.
Because all that happened was C-3PO fell over, and then they thought they killed Luke, and then they just started, like, you know, raiding his land speeder.
And well, what are they going to do with droids? They can't eat those.
Yeah. I mean, like, they don't... I mean, like, that's all that they are. Like, you know, they're basically depicted as savages. Like, you know, people just living off the land and...
Like a bantha.
Yeah, like a bantha. Which was basically just these elephants that had these large skins draped over them.
It's like a cross between an elephant and a woolly mammoth.
Yeah. With some horns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that's been hotly contested over the year, but this was the version I watched. Han shooting only, not Han shot first, just Han only shooting. That's a really good scene, and I know that they've changed Greedo's last line, the whole McClunky thing, instead of Aoshka.
Oh, Jaboshka. What clunky?
Una tuska solo.
I don't have it with me.
And how he's just like just so casually doing that, but I mean, like, you know, Greedo's stupid. You can tell Greedo's stupid.
Oh yeah, Greedo was just a henchman who was sent there to do a job. Like, hey, you go do this. I need this from this guy.
Yeah.
And Greedo's like, okay, boss. Right away, boss. Yes, sir, boss.
And apparently he wasn't even doing that good of a job because, like, you know, there's other shots during the commotion in the bar where he's just with other people.
No, you got.
I mean, like, he's literally standing right behind Chewbacca in one scene.
He's like,
I mean, like, they only had one suit, I guess.
Yeah. Don't ruin it.
Oh, the Jabba scene. Do you like the Jabba scene? People have contested it by saying that they don't like it because all the information we get in that scene we already got from the Greedo scene. But I guess...
Are you talking about the scene in general or the change to Jabba?
The scene in general, because, like, you know, that scene wasn't in the original, but do you like the scene with Jabba?
Yeah, I do. I think he could have looked a little better.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean that was the first time we saw Jabba.
Return of the Jedi, because, like, you know, that scene was cut from the original, and then in 1997 was the first time they added it. But, you know, when they originally shot it, it was just some heavy-set dude with a fur coat.
Yeah,
and
I remember seeing the behind the scenes for that.
Yeah, and they were apparently just going to cover him over anyway, but they just needed, like, a stand-in before they had, like, you know, green screen. And I love how Han throws shade at Jabba when he's walking onto the ship by saying, Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
And then, and apparently when Jabba and his little cohort are leaving, you know how Boba Fett's a part of it?
Yeah.
Apparently that was just a green screen thing.
Huh.
Yeah. That was not a guy in a suit. That was just a green screen thing that they added.
Okay.
Because apparently Boba Fett is, I guess, like, on Jabba's speed dial or something. Because, like, you know, not only is he working for him, he's working for the Empire, too.
Hey. He's just a simple man trying to make his way throughout the galaxy. Just like his father.
Has he ever made his way into the interior as far as Coruscant?
Oh, but, yeah, we're running a little long.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's time we wrap this up.
Yeah.
I mean, Blizzard's coming in again, so we're going to have to cut our transmissions.
Yeah, we got to go lock up, make sure everybody's inside, make sure nobody's out on their tauntauns in the snow.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure those wampas are secure inside.
Oh, we don't want no wampus inside.
Well, that was a cut scene from Empire. Apparently, they did have wampas secured in Echo Base, and I think they wanted to release them on the troops.
Release the wampus.
Yeah, in one of the Battlefront
It's a
games.
good defense strategy.
Yeah, I mean, and in one of the Battlefront games, when you play on the Hoth level, you can play as a wampa.
Oh, nice.
Yes. But, we got to sign off. But as you can tell, we love the original 1977 Star Wars. We have our favorite lines, favorite pieces of music, good acting all around. And
The world would be a much darker place if we didn't have Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, look at what was. I mean, just look at the state of the world in the 70s. I mean, there was political turmoil, upheaval. We were still suffering from the wounds of Vietnam. This was a bright spot that we needed. In a cultural that was becoming, nihilistic, losing its way, losing its faith. This was a bright spot, in addition to the Jesus freak movement that really helped bring, some stability.
And it really says something about the franchise that even to this day, that movie has still stood the test of time, and just the impact it's had on just the cultural zeitgeist.
Oh yeah.
And just the impact that it has had on the world, and like Star Wars is like a household name. And I don't think Georgie boy would have ever imagined what his baby would have turned into all of these years down the line.
Yeah. But, we love you, George. Thank you for giving us this movie, and we're going to trek on with the rest, even if it gets dark.
So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is only episode 2, but we're really excited about what we're doing. Really just excited just to share our viewpoints and our love for Star Wars with you guys. Whoever chooses to listen to these two crazy bastards talk about Star Wars for an hour.
Well,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, this is Green Leader 88.
I'm Blue Leader 99.
Signing off.
Signing off.
Good night, guys.